let's go ahead and go over this. For here, the warm-up, what we're talking about is setting up a tape diagram versus solving it using a proportion. So we've got different scenarios that we're focusing on. Here, there are 70 students in the school band. 40% of them are 6th graders, 20% are 7th graders, and the rest are going to be 8th graders. So we want to know how many are 6th grade, how many band members are 7th grade, and then what percentage of the band is going to be in 8th grade. So if we were to set up a tape diagram to utilize, I would set it up, since I know that I'm talking about increments of 10%, like 40% is 4 10s, 20% is 2 10s. I'm just going to go ahead and set up my tape diagram and split it up into 10 sections. So I split that in half, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so if I split this up into 10, each of these are going to be worth 10%. We've got 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, and so on, right? All the way up to 100%. What are each of the boxes going to represent for students? If I split them up into 10s, then each of these are going to be worth 7. If you take 70 and divide it by 10, then there's 7 students, and so on and so forth. Okay? So when we're utilizing the tape diagram, if we're first focusing on the statement that says 6th grade, 40% of the students are in 6th grade. So if I do 40%, that's 10, 20, 30, 40. How many students are going to be in 6th grade? 28, right? That's 7, 14, 21, 28. So I know that 6th grade is going to equal 28 students. Now, I want to check that, though, with a proportion. So if I set up my proportion, my is, which is missing my part, that's the value that is missing. The of is the total number of students in band, which was the 70. The percentage of the 6th graders was going to be 40% out of 100. So then I could do the cross product to solve. I could multiply 70 times 40 and then divide that final answer by 100. I would still get 28. Either way that you do it, you're going to get 28. Now, if we focused on the 7th graders, for 7th grade, it says 20% are 7th graders. So if I look at my tape diagram, 20% would just be these first 2 boxes. So how many 7th graders should I expect? 14. So again, we're going to go ahead and double check that with our proportion. In this case, the proportion would be x over 70 is equal to 20 over 100. If I do 70 times 20, I'm going to get 1400. Divide that by 100, and I'm going to get the 14. So again, either way, it works. Now for the last question, all it wants to know is what percentage of the band members are going to be 8th graders. What percent is going to be 8th grade? So what percent would be 8th grade? 40%, right? If we know 40% happens to be 6th grade, and then 20%, another 20%. So here's 10, here's 20. That's the 6th grade. So what still is remaining is the rest of our group, which is our 8th graders. So that's 10, 20, 30, 40. That's going to be 40%. Okay, and then we could even go further to identify that that would also represent the 28 if we did x over 70, and then our 40% over 100.
Okay, I'm
Let's go ahead and take a look at problem number 2. Jada has a monthly budget for her cell phone bill. Last month, she spent 120% of her budget. So did she spend more than her budget? No. Yeah, if she spent 120% of her budget, then that means she spent more than what her budget was. So her bill, the 120%, her bill was $60. So we want to know what is her monthly budget. So we know that 120% is going to be extra for our tape diagram. So I'm going to go ahead and split these up into percents of 20. So we'll have 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, 100%, and then 120%. That's a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be, but so we'll do 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, and this is the extra. That's 120%. Okay, we also know that this entire thing is going to be worth 60. This entire span is going to be worth $60. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes, and I need to divide that from the 60. How many is each box worth? $10. Each box is going to be worth $10. Okay, so if we add all that together, it would come out to a total of the 60. So we want to know what was her budget. What percent would represent her budget? What percent would represent her actual budget? 100%. Very good. So her actual budget is going to represent 100%. So how much is her actual budget? $50. So her actual budget is going to come out to $50. Now we could also look at it using our proportion where we do is over of equals a percent over 100. So the of, the whole, that's the budget. That's the value that we don't know. We do know that she actually spent $60. We do know the is $60. We do know her percent is 120% over 100. So it's obviously going to have a lower value for our of. If we again do our cross product, so if we were to multiply these diagonals together, we would have that 120x is equal to 6,000. And then we would just divide both sides by the 120. And we would get that x is equal to $50. Okay, so either way, tape diagram or the use of a proportion, both would work. Okay, for the last one, last month Ed spent $50 in all. He spent 40% of the money on movies. So how much money did Ed spend on movies? So I'm going to go ahead again. I'm going to make a tape diagram right here. Okay, so I'm going to have these percentages. I'm going to split it up. I split it up amongst 5 boxes. So we've got 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, 100%. In all, he spent $50. So that means the entirety of the tape diagram is worth $50. So what does that make each of these boxes worth? 10. Right? If you divide it by 5, because there's 5 boxes, each of these boxes is worth 10. Now, it says he spent 40% of the money at the movies. 40% was spent at the movies. So how much money was spent at the movies? $20. $20 was spent at the movies. Okay? He spent $20 at the movies. Now, again, we could do this as a proportion. We could do this as a proportion. X is the value we're trying to find. We know he spent a total or a whole of 50. We know that we're trying to find 40% of that value. So we can do X over 50 equals 40 over 100 and do our cross product. That would give us 100X is equal to 200. Or sorry, 2,000. Not 200. And then we would just divide both sides by 100. And you would get X is equal to 20. Okay, again, tape diagrams, proportions. Either one of them is useful. Let's go ahead and turn it on over to the back. On the back, we're focusing on tips taxes, discounts, and all that wonderfulness, commissions, markups. Okay, so Melissa went to lunch and got a salad for $8.50, a soup for $6.25, and a lemonade for $2.65. She decides to tip her server 25%. We want to know how much is the server going to earn from this meal. How much is the server going to earn? What do we call it when the server earns money? What is that called? Tip. So is the price of the meal going to be given to the server? No, that's given to the restaurant. The server only earns the tip off of the meal. So the only thing you're looking for is the actual tip. So the first thing that we need to do is set up our proportion. We know that our part, which is the money amount for our tip, is what's missing. That's what we're trying to identify. We know the whole, which is your subtotal, means that I've got to add all of this money together. I've got to add the $8.50 plus the $6.25 plus the $2.65. Okay, when we add all of that together, what does it come out to? Comes out to what? Say it louder, Montserrat. So it's money though, it's not 17.4, it's $17.40. So that is going to be our subtotal. We also know our percentage. The tip percentage is 25%. So now that I know all of this information, I can set up my proportion to solve it. I can do X over 17.40 is equal to 25 over 100, and then we can do our cross product. We would multiply our diagonals. That's going to give us 100x. I don't need that. Yeah, they're right there. Right there. Take the two sheets. Okay, so we've got the 100x, and then we're going to multiply 17.40 times the 25, and that's going to come out to 435. And then our last step is to go ahead and divide both sides by 100. So then that means that the server is going to earn a tip of $4.35. That's 25% of the meal. It's not a whole lot. Okay, for problem 5, Bill is purchasing a new iPhone. The iPhone costs $899. Sales tax is 7.5%. How much money is Bill going to spend on his new phone? So he has to pay for the phone and he has to pay for sales tax. So when the question's asking for his price of the phone, you have to combine those two together. So let's break it down. Our part is going to represent the money amount that tax is worth, which we don't know. The whole is going to represent the money cost of the phone, which we do know is $899. And then the percent is going to represent how much the sales tax is, which is 7.5%. Okay, when we set this up, we're going to have X over $899 is equal to 7.5 over 100, and then we can do our cross product. That'll give us 100x is now equal to 6,742.5. Last thing that you would want to do is to divide it by 100. Now, when you're dividing that by 100, you're going to get more than what you would want for the penny spot. So let me show you. If you look up here, in my calculator it says 67.425. Which number up here represents the penny?
4.
No. The 2. Your penny. Remember, there's 100 pennies. There's 100 pennies in a dollar. So you have, the 4 represents the tens. Okay, that would be like 40 cents. Right? So the two is your penny spot. Y'all need to start doing better about your money. So we would have to round. We're not going to keep this at 42. If you look at that 5, the 5 tells us to round up. So we're going to round up. It's not going to be 42. It's going to be 43 cents. You need to round it to 43 cents. So X is going to equal $67.43 for tax. What do we need to do now? What do we do now? Guys, what do you do? Then speak up. Add. You need to add. I'm going to start taking your notes up as a quiz. Oh, I will. I've already done it to one class. Last week I took up their notes so that they can get a quiz grade on it because they weren't actually trying. You need to make sure that you are trying. You are going to combine these together. Well, then I think I need to switch your seat because I think you're doing too much of this instead of actually focusing. Am I right? Prove me wrong. You are going to add your tax onto the cost of your phone. So you're going to take that $899, you're going to add it with the $67.43. And that's going to be the cost of the phone. So if we do $899 plus $67.43, the cost of the phone is $966.43. Problem 6. Charlie is purchasing a camera. He can either get the camera from Target or from Walmart. So you need to use the chart to figure out which one is going to have a better deal. If they're going to have a better deal, is it going to be more expensive or less expensive? Less expensive. Okay, so now let's take a look. Target is selling it for $250, but they have a coupon for $100 off. How do I show that? You just subtract 100, right? If they're telling you the money off already, then all you're going to do is subtract. So for Target, we're just taking what the cost was, which was $250, and we're subtracting the coupon of $100. So Target is going to charge $150. Now I got to do this for Walmart. Am I just going to do 230 minus 40? Why not? Because that's a percent. So we first need to figure out what 40% is worth, then we can take it away. So we're going to set this up as X over 230 equals 40% over 100. You're going to multiply. You get 100X is now equal to 9,200. Then you would divide both sides by 100. And you get X is equal to $92. So 40% off is the same thing as $92 off. So for Walmart, I'm going to take that $230 and I'm going to subtract $92. You do 230 minus 92, what do you get? $138. So who's the better deal? Walmart. Walmart's got the better deal. All right, let's take a look at problem number 7. Becky's a real estate agent. She earns 2.5 commission on any property she sells. Yesterday, she sold the Klymans a home for $575,000. How much commission will she earn? So remember, commission is, it's kind of like how a waiter or a waitress only earns the tip. Commission is something that you earn from what you've sold. So she's not getting $575,000. That goes to the home seller. That goes to the seller. They sold their home for $575. They're getting that $575. They use that to pay off whatever they owe on the house, whatever they still owed, or they might use it to buy a new home. Okay, so that $575,000 goes to the seller. The real estate agent who helped sell the home is going to earn 2.5 commission from that price. Okay, so we just set it up. We don't know how much she's earning on commission, but we do know that she's earning it off of the $575,000. We do know that she's earning a percent, that's 2.5%. And that doesn't seem like a lot, does it? 2.5% doesn't seem like much. But when you're earning that off of a very large quantity, it can be quite a bit. So if we do 100 times X, we get 100X. We do 575,000 and we multiply it by 2.5. That's going to come out to 1,437,500. Then you're going to divide by 100. And so the amount of money she earns is $14,375 from selling that home. So real estate agents, that's a good job. You can make some good money. The only problem with being a real estate agent is you depend on the market. If people aren't selling homes, you don't make money. You have to be able to make money by helping someone sell their home. Okay, so there could be times where you're making a good amount of money, but you might only help somebody once a month or once every other month. Okay, and maybe the home that you helped sell is only a $300,000 home. Okay, not going to make as much. It's not going to make as much as this. So the higher the price of the home that you help sell, the more commission that you're going to earn off of it. Okay, again, good job. Earns quite a bit of money if you work hard, and you have to be very personable. All right, let's go on to the next process. So we've done tips, tax, discounts, markups, commissions. Now we're going to deal with how you solve it if it is a multi-step percent problem. If you do not have your colors out, please get them out right now. So multi-step percent problems. When you're out in the real world, you're not just going to have a single problem that involves tip. When you go to a restaurant, you pay taxes and you pay tip. Okay? When you go to a store, if something is on discount, yeah, you have to remove the discount, and then you also have to pay tax. Okay, so you don't just go out in the real world and only deal with one situation. You do have multiple situations that are occurring: tips and tax, discounts and tax. Okay, it might even be a discount, tax, and a tip, because sometimes you might have a coupon or percent off at a meal, so you might be doing discount, tax, and tip. So in situations where you have tip and tax, if the situation's got tip and tax, what you do, you will add the percents together and then work it out as if it was a single percent problem. You add the percents together and work it out as a single percent problem if they're just wanting you to find the final cost. Now, if they're asking you in detail, hey, what's the amount that you're going to give in tip? Hey, what's the amount that you're going to give in tax? And then, hey, what's the amount that you're going to give total? Then you would have to work them out individually. But if it's just wanting you to find out the final cost after tips and tax, then it would be you combining the percents together and working it out as a single problem. The reason for that is because you do not pay tip on tax. You pay tip on the original cost. That's what you pay tip for. What was the original price? Pay tip for that. And then tax goes on the original price as well. So since they go on the original price separately, you can combine them together and work it out as just one whole percent. Okay, so for example, if tax was 6% and tip was 20%, then you'd be dealing with 26%. Now, discount in tax is different. Discount in tax has to be done step by step. The first thing that you would do is find out what the discount is. So you would do X over a whole equals the percent for the discount over 100. find out what the discount comes out to, and then subtract that from your whole. You would then get a new value as your whole. Using that new value is how you would find your tax. So you would do X over the new value is equal to the tax percentage over 100, and then find out what the tax is, and then combine that together. Okay, so this portion right here is a longer process. This is not. So let's take a look at some situations here. For problem number 1, it says James bought a $15 lunch. Tax is 5%, and he plans to tip 15%. I want to know how much is he going to pay for his lunch. So the first thing that I'm going to do is make note that it is a tax and tip situation. So since it is a tax and tip situation, the first thing that I do is I'm going to add the percent for my tip and the percent for my tax. I'm going to add them together, which means I'm taking 15% and I'm going to add it with 5%, which is going to come out to 20%. So there's my percentage that I'm dealing with. I added them together. That's the percent I'm dealing with. And now I can set up my proportion. In this situation, my part is going to represent the money amount for tax and tip combined. That money amount represents the tax and the tip combined together. That's going to be my X. My whole is going to be the money amount that I am spending on the lunch, which happens to be $15. And then my percentage is what I just found, 20%. So now I can set that up as a proportion. X over 15 equals 20 over 100. What do I do now? Jeremiah? Okay, I gotta multiply 15 times 20. If I multiply 15 times 20, that's gonna give me what? 300. Okay, what else do I need to do? Asia? X times 100. And when I multiply those, I get 100x. I'm setting that equal to each other. What's my last step? Divide. So we're going to divide by 100 on both sides, and I'm going to find out that X is worth $3. That's the tip and the tax. Is that what the question was asking for? What is the question asking?
How much is he paying?
How much is he paying for lunch? So does he have to pay $15?
No. Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
He has to pay his $15.
Yes.
Does he also have to pay the $3?
Yes.
Yes. So what am I going to do? Add them together. $18. He has to pay the $15 for the lunch plus the $3 for the tax and the tip. Not right now. It's going to pay $18. All right, problem 2. Mike wants to buy a laptop for $650. It's on sale for 20% off, and then the tax is 8%. How much is he going to pay? So this is going to be multiple steps. So I'm going to break it down step by step. Step 1. For step 1, you need to find the money amount for your discount, which represents your part. You have to find the money amount for your discount, which represents your part. So to do that, we're going to put X over what? 650 equals what? What's the percent? 20 over 100. Do our cross product. That gives us 100x is now equal to 13,000. You'll just divide both sides by 100 and get that x is equal to 130. Okay, that represents the discount off. That represents how much money he is able to go ahead and take away, which leads us into step 2. Step 2 is to subtract. So we're going to take his 650 and we're going to subtract the 130. And that comes out to his new total, his new subtotal. Which is $520. So after he's removed his discount, the cost of the computer is only $520, but he also has to pay tax. So that's where you move on to step 3. Step 3, you're going to find your tax, which is going to represent the part. So you're doing a proportion again, but this time it's based off of how much for the total? What's it based off of now? 520. It's based off of your new subtotal, 520. And your percent is different. What's the percent this time? What's the percent in the problem for tax? 8. 8% out of 100. Then we do our cross product. We'll get 100x is now equal to 4,160. If you divide both sides by 100, you're going to find out the tax is $41.60 for tax. Okay, your last step. Your last step is to go ahead and add. So what numbers am I going to add together here? 520, good. You're going to take your subtotal, which was 520, and you're going to add it with your tax, which was at $41.60. And that's your final price, $561.60. So discount and tax is a lot longer process. Discounted tax is a longer process, but it's doable. I want you guys to flip it on over. I want you to do the next couple problems on your own. Okay, for problem number 3. For number 3, this was a tip and a tax problem. 25% tip, 7% for tax. That means you add them together to get 32%. You'd set up your proportion where X is the missing portion. You don't know what the tip and the tax is. You do know that the cost of the dinner is $85. You do know the percent is 32. Set up your proportion X over 85 equals 32 over 100 and do your cross product. That would give you 100x is equal to 2,720. You would divide both sides by 100 and get $27.20 for the tax and the tip together. You then would add that to the cost of the meal, and that comes out to $112.20 for the final bill. Okay, for problem number 4, a jacket originally cost $65.49, but it's on sale for 30% off, and you have tax for 5%. How much is the tax or the jacket going to cost? So I'm split it up by steps. I went ahead and did it by columns this time instead of rows. So step one was us finding the discount. So we did X over $65.49 equals 30% over 100. When you do your cross product to solve, you're going to get X is equal to 19.647. But remember, this is your penny spot. The 4 is your penny. So you use the 7 to tell you that you're going to round up. So that's why we get $19.65 as the discount. Please remember to round appropriately with money. For step 2, you would then take the cost of the jacket and subtract the discount from it. You'd get $45.84 as your new subtotal. Once you know your new subtotal, you then find the percent for tax on that. Remember, you only pay tax off of the subtotal, the new one. So you do X over $45.84 is 5% over 100. When you do your cross product, again, you're going to get 2.292. That 9 represents your penny spot. So you're looking at the 2 to decide whether you keep it or round it up. This tells us that we're going to keep. So we do $2.29 for our tax. You then add the tax on to what your subtotal, your new subtotal was, and you get the cost of your jacket, $48.13 for your final cost. Okay, the last problem. The last problem, again, it's a tip and tax problem, but in this situation, or sorry, not a tip and tax problem, it's only a tip problem, but in this situation, Nathan's taking out his girlfriend for dinner. Entrees each cost $25. Drinks each cost $1.75. If you only did this for $25 and $1.75 and not for 2 people, then Nathan's not a very good date, is he? Gotta pay for his date. So you're gonna combine those prices together and multiply it by 2 people. So his whole was $53.50. You then find your tip off of that and combine it together. Pack up.